Today, we're going to be learning how to take your green screen footage and bring it into Unreal Engine in order to create compelling visuals. Are you ready? First thing we want to do is open up our DaVinci Resolve and start a new timeline. We're going to drag in our footage that we want to key, and let's turn our project settings. Let's remove vertical because I have it set to vertical. And here we are. This is our original footage. Um, it's not really, the clarity is good. And what I want to do is scrub through this and make sure we have everything that we want here. So this is our clip. One of the things that I typically do before I key my footage is I want to denoise it. So the way that we do that in DaVinci is we'll go to color, and down here on motion effects, we'll click on this. I'll put my frames to 5, better, and there's very little motion, so we're going to put this on small. For the temporal threshold, I like to set this to 20, between 20 and 30. Now, depending on your PC and the power of it, you can go better or ultra NR. I go ultra NR, which is a lot more taxing on your PC, but I do have a powerful PC. But for those of you that don't, you can go better and then hit this button right here. Radius will be small. And then let me see. I don't know why it's not letting me do it. Faster. I'm sorry. You'll leave it on faster and then you can unlock these. Let's reset these. And you'll click on this icon right here to unlock it. And then chroma, you'll just go, wait. Unlock that, and then just in your chroma set it to 30, and your footage is a lot smoother. It's denoised. But I'm going to reset this, and for me, since I have a good PC, I'm just going to click Ultra NR and then analyze the scene. And I'm going to bring this box to an area that's pretty much already denoised, like smooth. And as you can see, it's denoise. We won't have any issues. And then from here, we're going to come over to our blur options and just sharpen this up just a little bit to get that clarity back. Now we'll deliver this, and let's just label this snow underscore DN for being denoised. We'll come back out here and snow DN, save it, and then add to render queue and render. One of the things that I do is under advanced settings right here, just drop down to typically be closed. We'll drop it down and then force the Bayer the highest quality, force sizing the highest quality. And I typically do the 2-pass on full. And then I'll close this out, sorry. And then I'll render this. It's not going to take but so long. It's like 20, 25 seconds. Now, what denoising does, it's going to ensure that all of the noise in your image is removed, which will make for a way cleaner key. If you don't denoise your footage, and then when you go to key it out, you'll see the difference. So let's see. So if we go to our color and we reset everything, right? And then this is we're going to get into the actual keying everything, but I just want you to see that if we add this keyer, I want you to just see the difference. You see all of that noise in the pants, all of this like choppy stuff that's in the image, that's noise. Now, if we go to our media and now we bring in the denoised version, um, and we substitute that for the denoised version. First thing we want to do now is remember all of that noise that we saw in the image. Now look for that again inside of this footage when we go to key it out. So in order to key, the first thing you want to do is some people will right click and say new fusion clip, but I just go straight to fusion. Okay. Now this keying method is specifically for people that have the studio version. I've never used the standard version of DaVinci, so I'm not even sure if this node comes with the standard version, but shift space bar, type in Delta keyer, and then add that to your timeline. Now you can left click on this and drag it up so that you have it in both windows. Now, when we're talking about keying, right, we want to create a mat. A mat is pretty much a cutout of what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep. Everything in white is what we'll keep. Everything in black will be discarded. And in order for us to properly see these changes, we need to click on this color tab. Everything is white right now. So this is the end result. This is the image that we're working with. Now, in order to isolate the green from everything else, we're going to grab this picker and we're going to come in and we're going to pick an area. I want right here. You pick anywhere else, you see how that's still light here. It's light there. It's light here. So I'm going to come right here so I can get a solid background. And this is the first stage. On this side, it pretty much looks like it's a good key, right? But if you notice over here, the white area is still a little fuzzy. But look in that black area. You don't see any of that noise that was there before. It's going to ensure for a way better key. Now, we want to keep our subject. So we want this area to be all white and we want this outside area to be all black. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, what about all of the stuff on the sides and so forth and so on? We're going to remove all of that with a mask. We'll get to that in a second, okay? But the first thing we want to do is isolate this, our subject, and make them all white. And the way that we do that is we come over to the matte tab, and we're going to, on the left side of the threshold is black, on the right side of the threshold is white. So if you drag from the left over, you see, how the floor, and this has white spots in it, but when I bring this threshold over, that all goes away. So now we have complete black in the green screen area. Now we need to isolate this character, this subject, and make them all white. This way, everything in all white will be retained. So we'll grab the right side of the slider and we'll lower it. And as you can see, it's becoming all white. And even the things on the outside, they're all white. You're going to probably say, well, that's going to keep it, right? Yes, in theory. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a mask to remove that. But let's just scroll through our timeline and make sure that everything is looking good. We got a few specks right here. So we can just increase our blacks more. And at this point, all of our greens should be isolated. Now, let's get to the part where we talked about removing everything on the outside, and that's called a garbage mat, a garbage mask, right? So if you come in here into mask, your garbage mat right here is what we want to activate, but we can't activate it because we have not created a mask. And the way that we do that is we come up here and we grab a B spline. And with this B spline, we'll be able to create a mask around our subject to ensure that just this area, and then you want to scrub through. Oh, snap. That's the timeline. Sorry. You want to scrub through and make sure no parts of your character step outside of this mask. Now, once you've ensured that that subject has not left out of this mask, what we're going to do is we're going to take this white, you see this connecting point right here? We're going to take that and we're going to bring it to the bottom of the delta keyer. It's going to jump back to the top. Don't worry about that. Now, click on your delta keyer and then come over to your garbage mat and invert it. See, we inside of it, we canceled out everything in the inside. And when you invert it, it cancels out everything on the outside. So now all we have is your mat, which is the subject in white, and then the black is everything that is no longer there. So as you can see, we now have a completely transparent background, and the only thing left is your subject. Okay, so this is, if we go back to our edit tab, matter of fact, here's another thing too. If you want to check to make sure that your subject, you have a clean cut, you can come here, remove your checker underlay, and you can see if there's any overspit, like green spill. And sometimes when you're dealing with green screen, you're going to get green spill that carries over onto your subject or something that they're wearing. And because I have on a lot of black and so forth, you don't really see that. But this is where we would despill our footage under this fringe tab right here. You'll come here. I typically go to well done, and it will remove any green if there was any on the edges. And in this case, we didn't have any spill, which is crazy because there's usually always spill, but there isn't any. But I'm going to still just go well done just to ensure. And there's another thing. Let me show you. You see this little edge right here? It's kind of hard on the sides. What we can do is we can go back to our mat and we can blur that to remove it. If you this erode will push out from the edges. So you can come in just a little bit so that when you blur, because blurring is gonna come out a little. I typically just do 00016 when I blur, just to knock that hard edge off. This bag to me has a little bit still. That looks pretty good in my opinion. We haven't lost much, but we've gotten rid of those hard edges. Now, when we go back to our edit tab and we scroll through, we've got a pretty good key. Now it's time to export it. So we want to come to our deliver tab, right? And let's change this from denoise to, let's type in key. Keyed. So we have two ways of doing it. I typically go with a PNG or EXR, but you can also go QuickTime, Codex Apple ProRes, and then go 444, and it'll export as an actual video. Or you can go PNG, and then make sure no matter which format you choose, you select export alpha. Okay, this is very important. Remember what I showed you, that black, everything leaves and everything in white stays retained. Now, the white area is considered or called the alpha channel. So if you don't export the alpha, you will not get a transparent background. Your background would just be black and it will not work well inside of whatever software that you're trying to bring your keyed footage into, okay? So you have to make sure that you export your alpha. Everything else, I still set it at the highest quality, and you can leave the rest pretty much standard. Now, I'm going to put snow keyed and then type in PNG. Let's go here, and we're going to make a new folder. So let's go snow keyed PNG. For whatever reason, my computer, I got to back out then come back to see the new folder. So we're going to select that, and that's where your footage is going to go. Add to render queue, and then render. Perfect. Now we have keyed our footage, and we're able to bring this footage into any other software. And let's just see this backdrop. I just got a green screen backdrop. And if you see, if I put this over top, this footage is now keyed out. So you can see that now you have keyed footage. There's no black background or anything. Let's actually bring in the footage that we just did, just so you can even see that it worked, okay? So here we bring in this footage, import into media pool, hit edit, and snow keyed. Let's remove that. And as you can see, it is keyed up. It's keyed out perfect, okay? Now that we're going to start a new project inside of Unreal Engine, I prefer to use film, live video, and live events. And then I'll go with virtual production because as you can see, it comes with some of the things that are necessary for what we're doing. It's got in-display, codecs, different things that we require. If we go DMX, in-camera VFX, motion design, in-display. So I suggest that you always start off with film, video, and live events. In my case, I'm going to open my project that I already have. So here we're in Unreal, and this is pretty much just like my starting screen. But what we want to do is, one of the beautiful things about working in Unreal is you have scenes or maps that are already compiled and created, which makes the creative process a lot quicker. You can always build your own environment. You can always, create something. But in instances like this, and for the purpose of this tutorial to save time, we are going to work with a pre-made level, and it's called the Siege of Pontus. And we're going to open this map. And here we are inside of our scene. I'm gonna hide this. I'm gonna remove this for now. And as you can see, if you hit the G button, it'll remove all of the icons for lights and uh, process volumes and emitters and everything else, wind factors. So just hit G if you want to just see the scene. W, if you right click and hit W to go forward, S to go back, A to go right, left, D to go to the right. Okay. But and as you can see, this is a pretty cool environment. Doesn't have a ton of things in it, but it is structured well enough to be considered a set that we can shoot at. Now that we have our our environment selected, you can go to Fab to download environments. You can go to Cosmos to download environments. There are a variety of places and ways where you can get environments, and Fab typically has something free every month for Unreal Engine, so you can go in there and find some. But now, the first thing we want to do to bring in our footage is we want to go to content, right click, and create a new folder. And I'm going to type in tutorial. And in order to bring in our keyed footage, we need to add a few elements to our scene. First is right click, go to media. We're going to need an image media source, and I'm going to type in TUT. Right? The next thing we need to bring in from the media is a media player. And now you're going to get this little box that pops up. Make sure it is very important that you click this video output media texture asset because it's going to create a texture for you. So name this tut underscore MP for media player. And once you're done with that, it's going to create a media texture. And with this texture, we're going to create the material that we need in order to bring in our image sequence. Okay. I know you, if you're not familiar with any of this, it sounds crazy at the moment, but give it a second and I'm going to show you what all of this means. So first thing we want to do is go to our image source and we're going to bring in, you can grab from here and drag it up here, and then you can just click between the things that you need to do. So here in our tut, inside of our image source, we're going to bring in the keyed footage, right? So we're going to go to snow. We're going to go to snow key denoise and just click on the very first image and then hit open. You don't see anything at the moment, and it does that sometimes. Frame rate, we're going to go 24 FPS, and we can save this now. Now let's go back to our mat, and over here on our media player, as you can see now, we have a thumbnail. It didn't show in the source player, but we have a thumbnail here. Now we're going to go to our media player, right? And we're going to select our footage. Now, what you want to do is on this right-hand side is make sure that you click loop so that it plays continuously. And as you can see, we have a transparent background and just our subject. Okay. So we can save this and close it. Go back to our screen, our scene, sorry. And inside of our content drawer in our folder, as you can see now, we have a material or a media texture created. Now, what we want to do with this is we want to make a material from this texture. We're going to right click and then go to create material and name this tut underscore MAT for material. And now double click it. And what we now have is our material. But as you can see, we've got that black background. And if you click right here, it'll go to an image plane, which is what we're going to end up using to put this material on. But as you can see, we have a black background, and that is not what we want. So in order to do that, we're going to disconnect our RGB color. We're going to click on this output node. We're going to turn this from opaque to masked. And then we're going to go RGB A. So that's red, green, blue, and alpha. And we're going to go to the opacity mask. Or should we do A to opacity mask? There we go. So our RGB is going into our base color. And our alpha is going into the opacity mask. Remember, alpha, that white area is our alpha. So that's creating the mask. And that's making everything transparent and making that clear. The A, everything that was in white, which was the alpha, now is kept, and everything that was black is gone. So now back in our scene, we want to we want to bring that in. And how do we do that? We need to come here to add, go down to shapes, and grab a plane. Remember what I said, we're going to project this onto a plane. And we're going to drop that in, and you can lift it up. And I want to rotate it 90 degrees on the y-axis. So now we have our plane, and what we want to do is we want to add this material, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to come into our scene, and we're going to take this material, left click on this material, Then come back and hit this left arrow button to add it. I'm not sure why this material. There shouldn't be anything in the background. Hmm. Oh, we got to hit the, let me see, apply. And let's see if, there we go. We didn't apply it. So when we made the material and we made all the adjustments, you have to hit apply for any changes that we made to be relevant in our scene. So now, if you hit W, if we select our box, you hit W to move for left, right, up, and down. E is to rotate, and R is to scale. We want to scale this up. Let's move it over to the right a little bit just so we can get better grasp on our subject. I'm eyeballing. He obviously isn't large enough. So one of the things that you can do is if you have um, if you have a character or something, I've got a metahuman here, and I'll bring my metahuman in, and I'm going to use this metahuman to help me scale. Oh, wrong way. Sorry. On the Z-axis, I need to rotate. So I'm going to use this metahuman. If you hit the F button, it'll take you in on a character or any object or asset that you're have selected. So we're going to bring him down to ground level, and I'm going to use him as a reference for size for my character, for my subject. So let's bring our subject up. Shoulders look about right. We can bring that in just a little. W to slide over, slide up, and then R to scale again. W to bring them down. Those shoulders are still a little wide. Okay. And okay, we can get rid of him now. And now we want to place our character in our desired location. I'm going to rotate it just a little bit so that the feet both are like even. Okay. As you see down here, the feet are kind of like cutting into the snow. And that's all right because it's snow, right? So at this point, we have our character in the scene. He's scaled properly. But if you notice, he's lit by whatever is in the scene. And sometimes that can work in your favor, and sometimes it can't. It doesn't. I guess it all really depends. The thing I like about leaving the character in a lit mode is that you get the shadows. You see the shadows from everything else. Now, let's say you're working with a scene and your subject isn't lit the way you may want them to be lit. You can turn this into an emissive object so it's not affected by the lights in the scene. And let me just show you how, just in case for whatever reason you may want to utilize that feature. And I'm going to show you, it's cool because you get this way is good because you get the shadows, you get the shadows from yourself, and you also get the shadows from objects in the scene casting onto your subject. But in the event that you don't need that, or let's say the scene is kind of dark and you don't want to have to use lights to add them to your character, to illuminate them, to make them fit into the scene, you can always just hit Control and then grab this string right here, or this connecting point, this cord, whatever you want to call it, and take it down to emissive. Now, if we apply this and we go back, as you can see, our character is bright. He's really bright. Oh, and look, we still have our shadows and stuff. It didn't work like that. Our shadows are still there. Our shadows from like the reflection, you see these lines, but he's too bright, right? So in order to control that, you need to hit tab and then type in mult and add a multiply node. Control, disconnect it there, reconnect it there, and then grab this cord, put it there, and now we can bring this down to 0.5 or even zero point 0.2. Apply it, and that's still too bright. Let's go 0.02 maybe. No. Hmm. 0.1. Oh, you got to go into your output node and go from default lit and turn it to unlit. There we go. Now apply it and let's see. Now, if you see now, you're not going to get the shadows from the lighting in the scene. So as I stated the first time, I was correct. You still get your shadow of your actual subject. You see the shadow moving around. And speaking of which, if you want your shadow to move with your character, over here in your outliner, you have to go from mobility from static, which is default, to movable. Otherwise, your shadows won't move. Another thing I like to do is type in shadow and uncheck static shadow and check cast cinematic shadow. Okay. That's like one of my things. But in this instance, I actually like the shadows hitting our character from the light coming through the trees. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna disconnect this and we're gonna remove this multiply node, and we're just gonna come back over to the base color and go back and turn this back to default lit and then click apply. So now we get our shadows from our subject in the background from the trees and stuff, okay? Now, because we have a little issue with the feet, I'm gonna actually give us something to kind of like just hide it. I just wanna, actually, let's do this. Let's just grab this barrel. If you hit Alt and then grab one of these things right here, you can duplicate an object and then we'll rotate it this way. Actually, no. Let's grab this wheel right here. W, and let's Alt and slide this over. E, let's rotate it. W, and let's just bring it down here just to hide. Row shift, we can go with it. Just to hide that slight imperfection that's happening with that foot. And we can slide him back into the shadows a bit so that his feet are more so in the shadows, which will make it a little more difficult to notice that imperfection, okay? Um, and now what I advise is saving as frequently as possible. Now we have our keyed footage inside of our environment. Now, in order to bring our cameras in and to be able to create a sequence, we now need to start or create an actual sequence, right? We need to come right here. First thing you need to do is go into your plugins and type in movie render queue and make sure this is activated, okay? Another thing that I suggest is go into your project settings and under type in color, and under world color space, I advise you to change this from sRGB to ACES. Do that along with your plugin and then restart it all at once. Open up your project and we'll be ready to create a sequence. Now you'll click here. I've already have my sequences, but I'm going to add a new one. Okay. And let's just call this tut underscore sequence underscore two. And now we have a timeline like any other non-linear editing software like Premiere, DaVinci, or what have you. First thing we need to do is bring in our camera. So we'll come here, add cinematic, and you can add a semi-cam actor. Um, and then you can move it. Click add actor to track, and then add your actor. And as you can see, now you're in your scene. Okay. Over here, we have a few settings. Over here, we have a few settings. First thing I want to do is go to DSLR. I want to change this from universal to 50. And just keep it set there. Also, focus method. I want to go to tracking and then use this and click on my plane so that this subject is always in focus. Just to make sure, click on this debug focus plane. And as you can see, it's a little out of focus. So we want it to be directly right there so that our subject is always in focus. We can remove that. And now if you notice, as you scroll through the timeline, the character isn't, your subject, your footage isn't moving. So what you need to do is go to add a media track, and under media track, click this media source and grab our tut footage. Right click on this, go to properties, and down here where the texture is, we need to go to that actual video and then save. And as you can see now, our subject is moving. If you hit control and scroll your middle mouse wheel, you'll be able to shrink your timeline so that you can bring your end, or you can just come down here to the end and then hit the right bracket, and that'll make the end of your sequence. Also drag, no, not there. Grab the edge of it and drag it out so that you know that your camera is recording through the entire shot. Now we have our camera, we have our media. All we need to do now is animate our camera. And the way we do that is we come down here. I suggest this button will normally be off. I suggest turning it on so that anytime you move your camera, um, you come to the first frame and then move your camera back to where you want it to start, and it will automatically add a keyframe. If you notice here, Well, no, you got to add the first keyframe. I'm sorry. So once you've added your first keyframe, now once we get to the go to the end of our footage, and let's scroll, let's push in to where we want this footage to end, this shot to end. And as you can see, we have an automatic keyframe. Boom. We've got camera motion. We've got movement. Okay. Make sure that your plane is always behind your subject, right? Because we want them to stay in focus. Now, we don't want to go through this gate, right? We want that gate to actually open. So click on this object, and then again, add actor to the sequence, and then add a frame. When we get about here, come over here to your location, the blue, which is Z, and then just make it go up. And now we have that keyframe. As we can see, our subject is out of focus. So let's go to our actor and let's fix that. Actually, I want this gate to still be a bit lower. So as we get to it, it's just lifting. You can just grab this whole timeline. You can even make your sequence just start here if you want. And our subject is still in focus. And just like that, we have a sequence set up. If we hit play and play through, we have a sequence. Now, there's one other thing that I want to do with our camera. If you notice on the edges, these walls are, if we increase this aperture, look how crisp the walls look. We want things to be blurred a bit. And if we go really low with our aperture, if we drop our aperture down to 0, we notice that we get this blur effect, which means everything closer is going to be out of focus. Meanwhile, our subject and everything along this plane will be in focus, and things behind them will be out of focus as well. You see the back has a blur to it also. So as we get closer, this is in focus, but notice that blur on the background, which allows you to keep your eyes focused on the subject. Okay. And that is something that you always want to work with is your aperture, just to make things, make the eye lock in on the main character. And remember what I told you about the ACEs for your color science, because it's going to generate a better final image, in my opinion. Now, there's another, this is the standard camera, right? But you can also utilize Cinematographer Pro, which is a plugin that allows you to rebuild high-end cameras or real-world cameras and create digital doubles inside of Unreal. And it also comes with some really, really, really good options. Um, and I already have one in here, so let me show you. Let's go down to it. Oh, my aperture is too high. Or actually, let's open up this sequence. And as you can see, this is how it looks with the Cinematographer Pro camera. I added a camera shake to it, but in my opinion, as you can see, this is the regular camera, which is still good. And this is the Cinematographer Pro. You see how much wider your image is, you get more real estate. I feel like my subject looks clearer with this one, and it's just closer. And it all depends on your preference. If you would like to check out the Cinematographer Pro plugin, I'll leave a link in the description. And, whatever is a better fit for you. But this camera to me is better in post because it looks more realistic. And then when I go to do color corrections and things of that nature, it pans out better. This looks good too, though. So it all depends on what you want. I added a camera shake as well. Camera shakes aren't really too difficult to create. And if you'd like to learn how to create a camera shake, then leave a comment and I'll make another tutorial showing you how to create a camera shake to just add a little more realism to your shot as if someone was walking forward with the camera. Yeah, I love a camera shake. Now, let's save and it's time to render. The way you render is you hit this clapper right here and it's going to bring up this window. Um, you hit unsave config to be able to set your configurations up. And let's start off with a basic configuration that'll give you a good result. For one, let's delete this JPEG, hit settings, and bring in a PNG. Okay. Next thing we want to do is bring in anti-aliasing. And I typically do 1 and 19. Um, Override anti-aliasing needs to be checked. And warm-up frames are at 32. Then you can do color output. Enable OCIO. Because remember, we talked about we enabled the ACEs, which is OCIO, your color sign. So we want to enable that. And then under our settings, we also want to bring in game overrides and just leave that set the way it is. And then you have your output, which is your destination, your resolution, and your frame rate. And then from there, you'll hit accept and render local. Make sure you select where you want your output folder to be. And then you hit render local and you're good to go. All right, so now that we've exported our sequence from Unreal Engine, we need to bring it into DaVinci Resolve so that we can see it as not just a bunch of pictures, but an actual sequence. So we're going to go under Media, and you can just open up your file browser and go to where you exported your sequence, right? So here it is. You just need to drag one image into your into this window right here, and now we have the entire sequence. Right click, add into media pool. Now down at the bottom here, you'll go to edit and then just drag it down. And there you have it. Now we can do some color correction. And remember what I was telling you about that Cinematographer Pro? Look at that image, man. Let's go into our color tab and just tweak a few things. Let's just hit this to come over here. Let's just add a bit of contrast. Let's add some saturation. Let's bring this up. Let's bring our shadows down and then bring this back up. And we can add more contrast. Let's go about right here. I'll change my pivot to 0.333. And then I'll come here and drag this down to about 0.46, just to add some sharpness. And then we can go back. Let's loop it. That looks good. Now, all we got to do is hit deliver. Uh, let's just do tut underscore export. Select your location. Uh, UE export, tut, new folder, final, back out, come back in. And then we can save that as our location, go to advanced settings. And I like to add, like we did before, for sizing the highest quality, and then enable full for 2-pass. And then you can export it as a single. However, if you want to post it the way I post with the before and afters, let's hit this gear bolt wheel down here, and then let's go to vertical resolution, hit save, and now we have our vertical resolution. Let's click on our scene and let's size it up and move it up. We can make it a little bit larger. And then on the bottom, we want to bring in our denoised shot. Let's just drag it down, edit, add that over top. And let's bring it, click on it, and then zoom this down. And I'm actually going to put this on top. And you see we got this black bar right here, so you can just click on this, drop down your cropping, and then crop the bottom off. For this, zoom it down a little bit, bring it up, and we have we're missing a couple frames. One. And then there you have it. If you want to put your logo on it, go back to media and bring in your logo. Put this on top, drag it out, scale it down. Let's actually just bring it down here. And there you have it. Go back to delivery. Now let's do this again. Add to render queue and render. Hopefully you guys have learned something. I'm excited to see what you guys create. Um, and as usual, man, stay creative. Let's go.